Hi, this is Brien Lundin of Gold Newsletter, and I'm talking with Bob Archer, CEO of Newrange Gold. And Bob, it's really hard to talk to you, to refer to you as CEO of Newrange Gold. You were the founder and CEO and everything for Great Panther Silver. And as you remember, I was around when you started that company, and it was just such a tremendous success, built so much wealth for shareholders. And then you up and retired, and I thought you went off to the pasture, and then all of a sudden I see a news release, you're CEO of Newrange Gold. Yeah. What in the world could attract you back to this market, back from your retirement, from your rocking chair to get back to work?
I think that was a big part of it, Brian. Just I wasn't ready for a rocking chair.
Okay.
I realized pretty quickly, after stepping down in August of 2017, that I really wasn't ready for retirement. I love this business, and so I wanted to get involved again, and I kind of wanted to get back to my technical roots a little bit as an exploration geologist. And
because Great Panther, of course, is always an exploration component, but it was a producing.
There is, but it was a producing, and that was the business model right from the beginning. Was to get into production and have cash flow and everything. But I was keen to get back into the exploration side of things, and I've always wanted to work in Nevada. Going back to my early days with Newmont and Placer Dome, and well established in Nevada. And I've been a shareholder of Newrange, for many years. And then so when Bob asked me to join the board, Robert Carrington, that is, last March, I agreed to do that, and then just through working with him and the team and visiting the project, I really got to like the project a lot, and Robert and I worked really well together. And he's very technically oriented and lives in Reno, so he's close to the project. He likes to be out there. He's a boots on the ground kind of guy. And but I've got the capital markets side of the business, and it just became a really good marriage, such that he asked me to take on the CEO role in early December. And so I took it on January 2nd, so it's just been a couple of weeks, really.
Well, Nevada obviously is a preferred place of business for most companies, not just producers, obviously, but because there's such a great regime politically and everything else, and mining friendly, because the deposits tend to be so large and high grade when you can find them. A lot of companies love to work there. A lot of exploration companies are there, but there's a perception by some that it's been picked over and that it's been drilled like a pincushion, et cetera, et cetera. What attracted you to Newrange from a project standpoint?
I think it's a very unique project in that sense, Brian. You're very right. There's been a lot of work done in Nevada over the years, and the nice thing about about the Pamlico Project is that it's been in private hands since 1896.
Wow.
So consequently, it's never really seen much in the way of modern exploration. They had a couple of juniors, late 90s, early 2000s, that come in and drilled a few holes and didn't do a lot with it. But back in the 1800s, it was in production. In fact, at that time, it was known as one of the highest grade mining districts in Nevada.
Well, if it was in production back then, that would imply high grades.
Exactly, because their cutoff was about half an ounce per ton, about 15 grams. So, and there is some spectacular visible gold, that we can still pull from the dumps, at the project, and some old newspaper records that talk about hundreds of ounces per ton being shipped to the Comstock lode mine up in Virginia City and that sort of thing. So it's got a tremendous history, and yet nothing substantial having been done in the last 100 years or more.
Really?
And so currently there are about 300 old mine workings on the property. There are about 8,000 meters of underground workings that we're currently, mapping, sampling, surveying, and trying to get a better understanding of the controls on the gold mineralization. And of course, as you point out, the old timers were after the really high grade stuff.
Yeah.
They had no idea of the concept of fine grained flour gold, the no-seum type stuff that's so prevalent in Nevada these days, and the subject of all the heap leach operations and that sort of thing, and the concept of mining half a gram of gold in those days was just non-existent, right?
Which is typically unworkable in virtually anywhere else in the world
right,
except
yeah,
Nevada
yeah.
because of so much infrastructure
Yeah.
there. And well, tell us a bit about the type of mineralization. Are you getting understanding of the geology? Is it structurally controlled?
It's very much structurally controlled. It's in the Walker Lane Trend, which is kind of the western side of Nevada, and that trend is fairly well recognized as being a structural trend. So we're not looking really at Carlin type scenarios here. So the old high grade veins and such are exactly that. They're veins with a lot of visible gold, but we also see that there's gold in fine fractures as well. And in a lot of places, it is very fine. Robert has actually tried to pan gold out of samples that's running over 300 grams per ton, and he can't do it. You can't see the gold in there, so it's very, very fine in places. And so we're still fairly early days in that regard, and trying to get a better understanding of what's controlling the gold. Whether there are some flat-lying structures and fractures that you can see, but there's also some steeper dipping ones too. And which way are they trending? Which way do we step out to follow this thing? And so most of the drilling that we've done, which is only about 47 holes, mostly concentrated in one area, we've just done a test program because all that drilling was RC, reverse circulation.
I was about to ask.
And so RC. Sometimes it has a tendency to smear out the grades a little bit.
And you can't get a good idea of structure.
And you don't get any information on structure. And also, we're thinking that it might be under-reporting the gold grades a little bit because it's blowing that fine grain gold out into fractures, or not necessarily bringing it back up. So we drilled 4 core holes, large diameter, PQ size, and 3 of those twinned some of the better RC holes, only about a meter away. And we're just expecting the results from the first hole possibly this coming week.
Really?
So once we get those, we'll be able to go back to the core and compare the assays with various structures and that sort of thing, figure out that information and see how it's related, and then compare those results to the results from the RC program and get a direct comparison and help us to better understand what we were actually seeing in the reverse circulation program.
So you'll have a better understanding of the structure, where it's trending, how you can perhaps vector in on more consistent mineralization.
And that will help us then plan the next program, as to do we continue with RC and then how do we interpret it, or do we try to continue with core drilling, or maybe a combination of the two, and it may well be something like that.
How big is the property? Can you talk a bit about the previous work, the aerial extent?
Aerial extent is 1,670 hectares, so it's a good size. It does encompass the entire Pamlico district of the pass, so there are multiple old mines, on the property. The one main trend that we're following is we kind of lump it together, called the Pamlico Ridge, but it's about 2.5 kilometers long in terms of the exposed mineralization that we know of, and about a kilometer wide. So it's and it's within that area that we see these 300 old mine workings. So it has been quite extensively worked. It's a fairly big system, gold system, and it's open in all directions. It either disappears under overburden or under younger cover rocks. We don't know how far it goes in other directions. So it's a sizable target.
A lot to learn about it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so what's the plan now? Is it, you did 4 core holes, are you going to do more drilling and to do soil sampling?
We will be doing more drilling. Once we get the results from this program and can do all the comparisons and everything, that we'll be able to plan the next program. We're still mapping and sampling these underground workings, and from that we're actually doing an underground LiDAR survey. It's a laser technology that is absolutely amazing. It's very cost efficient, and from that you can build a 3-dimensional model of exactly where all the underground workings are, relate that to the samples that we're taking on the walls, and from that we're able to actually use that information towards a resource estimate. Plus it gives us an indication of where the workings are for our surface drilling, so that we don't drill into the workings, which you want to avoid. And so that'll be instrumental in in moving forward. So we're doing that. We're still working on metallurgy. We've done some preliminary studies that indicated that recoveries could be very high. That the oxidation level is very deep at the project, about 300 meters, so we're looking at something that's potentially heap leachable.
Oxide
with very
mineralization in Nevada.
Very high recoveries.
You don't have much of a grade hurdle to clear to make something economic.
Exactly.
In that area.
And it's highly fractured. So in terms of mining it, if we are able to get a kind of an open pit type scenario, big tonnage, then we might even be looking at run of mine type. Situation where we can just take it straight to the leach pad, which would really reduce the cost as well. So there's lots of favorable aspects to the project. There's lots of upside, and really it's just a matter of figuring out the controls on the mineralization and then stepping out and seeing how big it is.
But you have to figure out a lot in this, but that doesn't mean you don't have drill targets right in front of you.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No,
so you're going to be able to deliver to investors what they really like to see. Drill results over the next
and
year.
hopefully some very high grades to go along with them. Yeah.
Well, good. Well, Bob, great to catch up with you. Congratulations in the new role.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Newrange has been getting a lot of buzz from a lot of smart people at this conference and beforehand. So I look forward to seeing the news.
Glad to be part of it. Yeah,
Thank you so
it's good.
much.
Thank you.